Hello there, and welcome to The Sleeping Scientist, your quiet corner of the cosmos, where curiosity meets calm and science gently rocks you to sleep. Before we begin our celestial journey tonight, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always amazed by how many of us are drifting together from different corners of the globe, and if you enjoyed tonight's voyage, consider giving this video a gentle like and perhaps subscribing to the channel so you don't miss our next stargazing session. It helps more sleepy minds find their way here. Now, tonight's story is, how close are we to finding another Earth? You lie quietly now, your body sinking into the soft hush of the night. The air around you has settled, wrapping you in stillness like a second skin. Outside your walls, above rooftops and trees, the sky stretches far and deep, not just as a blanket of stars, but as a vast memory, a canvas of time. You blink slowly, and though your ceiling may be plain, you begin to see through it, as if your gaze stretches beyond plaster and paint, past clouds and weather, past the layers of blue and black that divide day from dusk. Your awareness lifts, soft as breath, into the high, ink-dark canopy of the cosmos. You carry it with you, you know, this sky, not just above you, but inside you. For in your bones are atoms older than the Earth, forged in the hearts of long-dead stars, hurled across time by explosions so vast they shook the very geometry of space. Calcium in your teeth, iron in your blood, carbon in the breath that rises and falls in your chest. Each particle has a story. Each one has wandered the galaxy longer than your dreams have wandered sleep. And so, you are already part of the cosmos you seek. You are already threaded into the fabric of the sky. Tonight, you do not simply look upward, you return. The stars do not twinkle, they shimmer with memory. Light is ancient, you learn. Traveling for hundreds, sometimes thousands, even billions of years to reach your eyes tonight. Some of the stars you see may no longer burn. Their light, like a whispered goodbye, is only just arriving, but you welcome it. Each photon, a message. Each glint, a letter from a language not spoken in words, but in warmth and color and time. Far above, the constellations begin to form, not as pictures of heroes and creatures, but as gentle landmarks in a sea of uncertainty. Orion is no longer a hunter, he is a compass. Cassiopeia is no longer a queen, she is a question. And the question is this: is there another place out there, like here? Your mind begins to drift, not with fear, but with wonder. You're not sailing away from Earth, you're being called gently outward by something that lives in both starlight and silence. You feel it first as a curiosity in your chest, a soft ache to know. What would it feel like to stand on another planet with air brushing your skin and gravity beneath your feet? Similar, yet unfamiliar. Somewhere, perhaps, there is an ocean lapping against shores made of stone not found on Earth. Somewhere, clouds form from vapors we've never breathed, and trees, or something tree-like, reach toward a different sun. But before we find these things, we must learn to see them. And to see them, we must understand the darkness between us. The night is not empty, it is waiting. And in that waiting, human eyes have found meaning. You picture Galileo, lifting a simple telescope toward the heavens, not to conquer but to witness, not to name but to know. His tools were crude by today's standards, but his vision was vast. Since then, our instruments have grown in power and patience. We've built machines that can gaze through gas and distance, machines that don't blink, machines that stare deeper into time than any story ever told. But the journey didn't begin with machines. It began with you. It began with wonder, the most ancient technology of all. Your body softens, your breath slow and even. You are floating now, not in space, but in the calm gravity of your own attention. Because this journey, this search for another Earth, is not about escape. It is about expansion of mind, of heart, of home. And as you lie there, a voyager without a vessel, you begin to notice how the questions unfold. What does Earth-like mean? Is it about atmosphere, water, temperature, or is it about something more quiet, the sense of shelter, the rhythm of days, the invitation for life to emerge? Even now, Earth hums with signals we barely understand. Rainfall carves memory into stone. Winds carry pollen like whispered possibility. Every sunrise is a signature, a way of saying, here, still here. And still we wonder if another place might echo that tone. If another sky might host a world where something walks or swims or grows, looking up at their own stars and asking the same gentle questions. Tonight, the journey begins, not in rockets or rovers, but in quiet thought. You reach out, not with hands, but with wonder. And wonder, it turns out, travels farther than light. So you close your eyes, not to fall asleep, but to open the window to deeper seeing. You are not just a passenger in this story. You are a witness, a question, a spark, carried forward from the stars that made you. Breathe in. The air is earth. Breathe out. The sky is memory. In this moment, you are both. And somewhere in the night, light is already traveling toward us from a world we do not yet know, but already imagine. Last lines. And as that light moves through space, silent and slow, you begin to wonder how we read it, how we learn from it, how we listen to the messages carried by stars.
The journey continues, not with a roar, but with a shimmer. A pulse of light, older than memory, reaches the curve of your thought. You lie still, the night unchanged around you. But your awareness now lifts again, riding on invisible waves across an ocean of space. The stars do not speak with sound. They speak with light. And light is ancient. Each beam that touches your planet tonight may have begun its journey before the first forests breathed, before the moon knew tides. This is the strange language of the cosmos. Silent, swift, but never rushed. We call it starlight. But it is more than brightness. It is a message written across distance and time, waiting to be read by patient eyes. Your eyes may not see its full story, but your mind begins to understand how it's told. Imagine a star, a searing, burning furnace. So far away it looks like a pinprick of softness in the sky. And yet, that tiny glint holds multitudes. Because light, as it travels, carries the fingerprint of where it came from. Astronomers don't just look at stars. They listen not with ears, but with instruments that divide starlight into rainbows. It's called a spectrum. And in that rainbow, there are missing colors. Little gaps, little shadows. These shadows are not accidents. They are the voices of atoms. Hydrogen, helium, oxygen. Each leaves a unique signature, a specific pattern of absence, like a musical note played in reverse. When a planet passes in front of a star, its atmosphere, if it has one, filters that light just a little. And in the filtered glow, we can see hints of what surrounds that distant world. Not through sight, through story. Is there methane? That could mean volcanic activity, or life. Is there oxygen? That might suggest photosynthesis. A process that, here on Earth, built everything green. You begin to see light not as something you switch on and off, but as a conversation unfolding between matter and meaning. The distances are vast. And that's where the idea of the light year enters. It's not a measure of time. It's a measure of journey. A light year is how far light travels in one Earth year. Roughly 6 trillion miles. And yet, light makes that journey. Without pause, without food, without a map. It simply moves. And in moving, it connects. So when we say a star is 100 light years away, we mean, the light you're seeing tonight left that star a century ago. You're not seeing it now. You're seeing its past. Astronomy, then, is a science of memory. A science of looking back, even as we move forward. And in this memory, this archive of ancient light, we find clues. Clues not just about stars, but about the worlds that may orbit them. Some of these worlds are large and hot, with atmospheres too dense for comfort. Others are icy, or invisible. But a few, just a few, show signs that make us pause. The light from these stars flickers slightly, rhythmically dimming and returning. Not randomly, not chaotically. This pattern, like the blink of a slow and distant eye, tells us something is passing in front of the star, blocking its light for just a moment. That something is a planet. And by measuring the dip in brightness, scientists can infer the planet's size, its orbit, even hints of what its air might be made of. This is the dance between shadow and understanding. A planet reveals itself, not by being seen, but by being sensed. And you, lying still beneath your sky, begin to marvel at how much we can know from so little light. The universe does not shout, it whispers. And we, fragile, temporary creatures, have learned to listen. You think of the telescopes again. Not just glass and gears, but tools of translation. They turn photons into language, and that language into meaning. One telescope stares from a mountain, another from a satellite, another orbits far above Earth's breadth. All of them tuned to the quiet murmurs of ancient fire. You begin to understand that we don't find planets the way you find pebbles on a beach. We find them the way you find stories in Starlight, through patience, pattern, and imagination. A curve in brightness, a missing color, a delay in timing. Each tiny anomaly is a seed of knowing, and knowing becomes vision. You are floating now, between stars and questions, no longer just looking for another Earth, but for another breath, another echo that feels familiar. The universe is filled with light, but not all of it reaches us. Much of it is blocked, scattered, or lost. And yet, some of it finds its way here. Through gas clouds, through time, through the fabric of space itself. And that light touches your skin, enters your eye, and for just a moment, becomes part of your thought. You carry it now, not as information, but as warmth, as the beginning of understanding. It reminds you that even across impossible distances, connection is possible. Even between worlds, the light is telling us something. It always has been. But now, we've begun to understand how to listen. You close your eyes, not to escape the stars, but to let them enter you more deeply. They are not far away. They are here. In the signals we catch. In the knowledge we build. In the questions we continue to ask. Tonight, the stars spoke softly. And you listened. You listened. Not just with science, but with stillness. And somewhere, far away, a tiny shadow crossed a sun. And in that shadow, we saw a world. Last lines, transition. But what of the planets we cannot see? The ones that leave no shadow. The ones whose light is drowned by the brightness of their stars? How do we find the invisible? Next, planets we cannot see, yet. There are some things in the universe that do not wish to be found. They do not glow. They do not speak in light. They move quietly, wrapped in the brilliance of the stars they orbit, hidden not by darkness, but by too much light. These are the planets we cannot see. Not yet. You lie in your stillness. Your breathing calm. As the sky grows deeper in your thoughts, your mind becomes a vessel, sailing again into invisible waters. You imagine looking toward a star. It burns bright, powerful, ancient. But anything beside it? Anything small, like a planet, is lost in its dazzle. Like a candle beside the sun. Our eyes are not made to see what hides so well. Even our best telescopes struggle, blinded by brilliance, drowned in solar radiance. But the universe leaves traces, and humans, with our quiet minds, have learned how to follow those traces. You drift now through a sea of unseen planets. Millions, maybe billions. Swirling around stars like dust around flame. They pull gently on their suns, disturbing their rhythm, tugging ever so slightly with the soft pull of gravity. We call this the wobble. A star, seemingly still, moves in a tiny circle, not because it chooses to, but because something unseen orbits it. A companion we cannot see. This is the radial velocity method, one of science's ways of noticing the unnoticed. You imagine a star being watched for weeks, then months. Its light measured with exquisite precision. And suddenly, A pattern emerges. A tiny shift in the color of the light. A rhythmic push and pull. The star moves slightly toward us. Then away again. Not visibly but measurably. And in that sway, we see the whisper of a planet. Not in form, but in influence. It's like watching the sway of tree branches. And knowing the wind is there. Even if you cannot see the wind itself. You begin to understand that much of what we know about distant worlds is not through direct vision, but through effect, through the echoes they leave in their stars. These methods demand patience and faith in patterns. A single data point means little, but across time, the invisible becomes visible in the form of motion. Still, not all planets pull strongly. Not all align just right to cast a shadow. Some pass too high or too low. Others drift in wide, lazy orbits that take decades to complete. So scientists developed another way. A method born of subtlety and light. It's called transit photometry. Measuring the dimming of a star's light. When a planet crosses its face, you float in your thoughts again, imagining a star as a golden circle, steady and bright. And then, for a brief moment, something passes in front of it. Not enough to blot it out. Just a slight flicker. A blink. From Earth, it's the softest dip in brightness. Sometimes just a fraction of a percent. But that dip tells us something is there. A world. A planet with size and orbit. You marvel at how much can be gleaned from the tiniest shadows. Scientists can tell how big the planet is, how long its year lasts, even whether it might be rocky or gaseous, dense or delicate, all from the way the light dims and then returns. This is the science of absence, of learning through what is briefly missing. You feel a quiet awe settle over you, because it means we can find things we cannot even see directly, and still, more methods exist. Sometimes, a planet is found by the way its gravity bends light itself. A cosmic lens, warping the view from a distant background star. This is gravitational microlensing. Rare, delicate, beautiful. A momentary brightening, like the gleam of sunlight on moving water. And sometimes, just sometimes, a planet can be seen directly, but only when powerful tools block out its parent star's glare, allowing the faint glow of the planet to appear, like spotting a firefly next to a lighthouse. Each method reveals a different truth, each one a thread in the vast, unfinished tapestry of planetary discovery. And you, resting here, begin to sense how vast that tapestry truly is. You picture a map of the night sky, but instead of constellations, You imagine dots of data, each one a planet found through wobble, dimming, lensing, or glow. Thousands of them. Now more than 5,000 known. And yet, this is just the beginning. The ones we've found are only the loudest, the biggest, closest, most cooperative. Most planets remain silent, hidden. But we're learning to listen more carefully, to invent better instruments, refined algorithms, longer watches. We are growing better at seeing the unseen. You begin to realize how much of science is not just about discovery, but about belief. Belief that what we cannot yet see still exists. Belief that the night sky holds more than we have ever imagined. And that belief, that steady, searching gaze, is itself a kind of light. You imagine future telescopes peering deeper, sharper, farther. You picture them discovering planets like Earth, but smaller, cooler, fainter. Planets that reflect just the faintest blue. Planets with gentle atmospheres and soft, whispering winds. You smile at the thought of it, of something so distant, so easily missed, being known, simply because we dared to look, because we refused to stop looking. And now, as your breath slows and deepens, you feel that same looking within yourself, not just outward, but inward. You are learning to sense subtle things, a rhythm, a question, a pull. You are learning to trust that the unseen is still real, that not all truths require vision. Some require stillness, some require listening, some require wonder. Last lines, transition. And so you wonder if planets can hide in plain sight. What about the spaces between them? Is there a perfect place for life? Not too close, not too far. Where Earth-like conditions quietly wait. Next, the Goldilocks Zone. In the quiet glow of starlight, there lies a space not too near, not too far. A silent middle distance, where something rare becomes possible. Life. Astronomers call it the habitable zone. Others call it the Goldilocks Zone, named after a fairy tale, where things must be just right. And tonight, you drift gently toward it, not through fairy tales, but through the mathematics of warmth. You float in your thoughts, imagining a single star, like our own sun, surrounded by invisible rings. Too close, and the heat scorches. Any water would boil. Any life would struggle to breathe. Too far, and the cold becomes a silence, freezing the promise of motion. But in between, in that quiet, golden ring, a planet might hold oceans. Rain might fall. Air might dance in patterns we call weather. And somewhere, something might live. You picture Earth turning slowly inside that band. Our planet orbits the Sun not in a perfect circle, but close enough. Close enough to catch warmth, but not burn. Close enough to breathe, but not freeze. This balance is fragile, delicate, like holding a candle between cupped hands. It is not a guarantee, just a chance. A space where life could happen. Not where it must, but where it might. And in the vast galaxy, there are countless such rings, each one surrounding its own sun. Some stars are smaller and cooler than ours. Their habitable zones pulled in tighter, closer to the flame. Others are larger, more intense, pushing their life zones farther out. Each system, its own rhythm. Each star, its own breath. And within these zones, planets drift like quiet boats in invisible harbors. You imagine a planet just slightly larger than Earth, its surface rocky, its skies tinged with lavender, liquid water pools in shallow valleys, clouds pass in gentle silence. And maybe, just maybe, life stirs beneath those clouds. Slow, small, strange, but alive. The Goldilocks zone becomes more than a scientific measure. It becomes a metaphor for the balance everything needs. Not just planets, but you. Too much noise, and your thoughts scatter. Too much silence, and they sink. But in the gentle middle, your mind floats, alive, curious, steady. You find yourself thinking about how Earth keeps this balance. How the sun warms us just enough. How our atmosphere wraps us like a soft coat, holding in heat, filtering radiation, keeping oceans from vanishing into the sky. This didn't happen overnight. It took billions of years. Tectonic shifts, carbon cycles, magnetic fields, a choreography of chemistry and chance. And still, it holds a fragile, beautiful balance, a miracle made steady through time. So we search for other Earths, not just in form, but in balance. In planets that orbit in the just right zone. In worlds where liquid water might ripple against stone. Where clouds might gather and scatter like breath. We cannot yet see these things clearly. But we can infer. We can measure orbits. Calculate temperatures. Listen to atmospheres. And when a planet falls inside that golden band, a quiet thrill moves through science. Because it means possibility. It means hope. You think again of those far-off places, floating in rings of light and shadow. Some may be deserts. Others, icy spheres. but a few, a rare few, might carry the same quiet invitation as Earth once did. The Goldilocks Zone is not a promise, but it is an opening, a doorway, a cradle, and you, floating gently in thought, feel that same sense of cradle within yourself, a space in your mind, where curiosity lives, not forced, not hurried, but natural, just right. The stars do not rush to reveal their secrets. They wait. And in that waiting, we have learned to be gentle observers. You close your eyes, not to leave the search, but to deepen it, to feel the balance not just in space, but in you. The Goldilocks Zone is not only about temperature, it's about timing, stability, chance. It's about harmony. A planet's dance with its star, a life's dance with its world. And tonight, as you drift into the silence between thoughts, you realize that in every search for balance in the stars, there is also a search for balance in us. Not too much, not too little, just enough to wonder, just enough to dream. Last lines, transition. And if warmth and water can meet in just the right way, what kinds of worlds might form there? Would they be blue like Earth? Or something stranger? Wrapped in oceans, cloaked in mist? Next, water worlds and rocky hearts. You drift now toward imagined surfaces, toward the textures of worlds that lie wrapped in shadow and silence. The Goldilocks Zone, that gentle ring, has led you here, to the edge of possibility, where planets take form, from rock, water, and time. You begin to picture them, not from photographs, but from fragments of light, curves of gravity, and whispered data carried across years. First comes the water world. You imagine standing on no land, only on something like an endless sea. A planet with no mountains, no deserts, no valleys, just water, layer upon layer, stretching beyond any horizon, so deep that even light gives up halfway down. Its surface is calm, perhaps, gently stirred by winds from an alien sky. No continents rise, no cliffs break the line, only rolling waves, fed by ancient rain. You float there, in thought, weightless and still, wondering what lies below. Could there be life in that abyss? Could heat from the planet's core, warm hydrothermal vents, like the ones on Earth's ocean floor, where strange life clings to darkness and thrives? You remember, life began in water, not in sunlight, but in the quiet boil of the deep. And so, even without land, such a world may pulse with hidden life. Not walking, not flying, but drifting, glowing, anchored to minerals, feeding on chemistry. You breathe slowly, as though adapting to the pressure of an ocean too wide to imagine. And then, gently, your thoughts move on toward land. You picture another world, not a water globe, but a place of stone, its surface cracked and layered, rich with iron, silica, magnesium. You walk in your mind across its skin, hearing the imagined crunch of gravel beneath your step. This planet is solid, like Earth, but stranger. Its sky may be violet, its soil red, its gravity slightly heavier, pulling your feet just a little firmer with each step. Here, rivers might carve paths through valleys. Lakes might reflect moons, not our own. Clouds may carry unknown compounds, not harmful, just different. A breath of chemistry we haven't yet named. You lean down, scooping imagined dust into your palm. It falls slowly, like it has weight, but no history yet. You wonder what stories it could tell, if we only knew how to listen. These rocky worlds, so common in the cosmos, offer something familiar. Earth, after all, is a rocky planet. Our mountains rose from molten stone. Our continents ride on shifting plates. Our lives are shaped by the firmness beneath our feet. And so we seek worlds like this. Terrestrial planets, where land might hold water, where gravity could keep an atmosphere close, where life might find a foothold. But it is not one or the other. Some worlds may hold both, stone and sea, mountains and oceans, tides pulled by moons, rains fed by clouds. You imagine one such world, a distant cousin of Earth, its oceans a little deeper, its continents smaller, scattered like green freckles on a blue face. You walk along a rocky shore, where waves greet stone, with a rhythm older than memory. The air is cool. The sun above is redder than ours. Smaller, but steady. And something moves in the tidal pool beside you. Not a fish. Not a plant. Something else. Small. Curious. Alive. You smile. Not because it is real, but because it could be. Possibility feels like presence. In these moments of quiet thought, back on Earth, we search for these combinations of water, rock, and sky, because together, they make life possible. Not inevitable, but possible. When telescopes detect planets of the right size, with the right mass, orbiting in the right zone, we wonder, could they be like this? Could they hold oceans beneath icy shells, like Europa or Enceladus in our own solar system? Could they have dry riverbeds waiting for rain? Like ancient Mars? We don't know. Not yet. But the clues are growing. We've seen hints of clouds. Possible signs of weather. We've watched planets wobble in ways that suggest surface features. Even moons. We cannot yet land on them. But our minds can. And yours just did. You walked a rocky shore. You floated on a vast sea. And now you understand what scientists hope for. Each time they name a new world. Not just data. Not just distance. But depth. You lie still now. Your body cradled in quiet. But your thoughts remain vast. You've learned that planets come in all kinds. Gas giants, icy dwarfs, burning orbs. But in the quiet center of possibility, some are rocky. Some are wet. Some may be just right. You begin to feel a connection. Not to Earth alone, but to the pattern of planets. To their forms and forces. To their chance at hosting breath. And so the journey continues. Not to the surface of a planet, but above it. Because what surrounds a planet matters as much as what it holds. A rocky heart means nothing if its air is poison. A world of water cannot live if it cannot breathe. So now, you float upward through imagined atmospheres into layers of invisible wind. Last lines, transition. What if the air itself could speak? What if the light passing through it carried secrets of breath and life? What if, one day, we could read the sky of a distant planet, like a letter from the stars? Next, the atmosphere's secret code. You rise now, slowly, leaving behind the imagined shorelines and seas. Not to escape, but to ascend. Above every world, there is a veil. A blanket of gases. Thin or thick. Transparent or tinted. This is the atmosphere. The breath of a planet. And tonight, you float through it. Gently, like mist rising through starlight. On Earth, the atmosphere is life's cradle. It holds in warmth, protects against radiation, and carries the scent of rain, the songs of birds, the invisible swirl of seasons. Without it, oceans would boil away, skies would go silent. Life, as we know it, would vanish like steam into space. So as we search for other Earths, we look not only at their size or orbit, but at their skies. Because in those skies, there may be secrets. A planet's atmosphere is more than air. It's a story, a code, and light is the key. When starlight passes through a planet's atmosphere, it bends, it filters, it absorbs certain colors, and lets others through. This bending leaves behind patterns, tiny dips and rises in the spectrum of light. And those patterns can be read. This is called spectroscopy, a science of shadows and colors, a way of seeing what cannot be seen. You imagine a distant world now, gliding gently in front of its star. For a few moments, some of the star's light filters through its sky, and in that filtered light, there are whispers. Oxygen, perhaps. Maybe water vapor. A trace of methane. Even carbon dioxide. These molecules speak. They leave marks. And those marks, once unreadable, are now the focus of the greatest telescopes we've ever built. We listen to them, not with ears, but with lenses and mirrors. Detectors cooled to silence, orbiting far from Earth's interference. You float beside one of these observatories now, imagining its golden eyes staring into the dark. It watches the flicker of a star, the curve of its light. It waits for the moment when a planet crosses that light, and air reveals itself, not as wind, but as code. Different gases absorb different colors of light, like keys pressed on a piano. Each has its note, its signal. Hydrogen sings high and thin. Oxygen hums in deeper tones. Methane trembles with the hint of biological breath. And then there is ozone, a fragile, transparent armor. On Earth, it blocks harmful rays. But more than that, it suggests the presence of life below. Because ozone is born from the touch of light on oxygen. So when astronomers spot a planet whose atmosphere shows both oxygen and ozone, they take a breath, because it could mean photosynthesis. It could mean trees, or plankton, or something stranger, but still alive. But atmospheres can mislead. Not every oxygen-rich sky holds life. Some may be poisoned, formed by chemical reactions we do not yet understand. That's why we read these codes, not just once, but again and again, looking for patterns, for harmony between elements. You float through imagined skies now, some pale and thin, others thick and orange, like Titan, a moon with a methane mist. You drift through carbon dioxide clouds, past sulfur rains, through nitrogen haze. Each atmosphere feels like a mood, each one a planet's personality. And somewhere in one of them, a breath like yours may stir. You pause at that thought, because breath, this simple act you do now without trying, is everything. If a planet holds an atmosphere, with oxygen, with nitrogen, with pressure gentle enough for lungs, it may offer not just curiosity, but comfort. And perhaps we are not the only ones. to have noticed. Because atmospheres don't just reveal themselves to us. They can reveal us too. Earth's atmosphere, from a distance, glows in infrared. It reflects blue. It pulses with signals. From cities, from machines, from breath and birdsong. It leaks radio waves. It reflects satellites. It speaks. Accidentally, constantly. Into the dark. So what if someone or something is listening? And what if, on some quiet world orbiting a far-off sun, their instruments are reading our air? What would they learn? That this planet is alive. Not just with trees and oceans, but with voices, with heat, electricity, laughter and loss, the hum of cities. You drift in that thought, that maybe we are someone else's atmosphere to decode. A mutual stargazing, a mirror of curiosity. Back in the quiet, you return to your breath. Steady, slow. You begin to notice how your own lungs filter the air, how molecules move in and out. Invisible but vital. You feel suddenly connected to Earth, to every being that breathes, to the concept of breath itself. You are not just a seeker of other skies. You are part of one. And so, when scientists read the atmospheres of distant planets, they are, in a way, looking for themselves. For echoes of home, whispers of resemblance. Because to know the air of another world is to imagine standing there, feeling the wind, watching the clouds, wondering what it feels like to simply be. And the more we decode these skies, the more we believe that somewhere another world may be breathing back. Last lines, transition. But how often do these worlds arise? How many Earth-like planets spin quietly in the dark, waiting to be found? To answer that, we must ask a deeper question. A cosmic equation whispered by the stars. Next, how many Earths are out there? You drift now. Not toward one world, but through a sea of them. The stars no longer seem solitary. They feel surrounded. Each one a lantern, with its own circle of possibility. And so the question arises, as naturally as breath. How many Earths are out there? Not just planets, but Earth-like ones. Worlds with stone and sky, water and warmth, balance and breath. You do not rush toward the answer. You let it come slowly, like starlight crossing time. The first thing to know is that planets are not rare. They are everywhere. For every star you see in the sky, there are likely at least one, and often many, planets circling quietly in our own galaxy, the Milky Way. There are over 100 billion stars. And now we believe there may be even more planets than stars. A trillion silent companions, drifting in the gravity of suns. You float through this thought, like a feather caught in galactic wind. Planets of fire, planets of ice, giant gas worlds, tiny, frozen dwarfs. But some few, fall into the quiet category. We seek rocky, temperate, wrapped in breathable air, bathed in gentle light, Earth-like. But how many? To begin answering that, scientists turn to a famous question, an equation, not of numbers alone, but of wonder. It's called the Drake equation, not a prophecy, but a framework, a way to think about the odds of life out there. It begins with stars. How many are formed each year? How many of those have planets? How many of those planets are Earth-sized? In the habitable zone? And then, the deeper questions emerge. How many of those might develop life? How many might evolve intelligence? How many might send signals into space? Each variable is a mystery. Each one a door, partly open, partly closed. Some numbers we now know better. We know most stars have planets. We know many of those planets are rocky and small. And we know some orbit in that golden range, where water could flow. You float above such a planet now. Not real, but possible. Its clouds swirl, as if in thought. Its oceans gleam under a pale orange sun. And for a moment, you wonder if someone there is looking up, asking the same question. The more we learn, the more hopeful the numbers become. Even if just 1 in every 5 stars has an Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone, that still leaves tens of billions of possible Earths in our galaxy alone. And our galaxy is just one of many. Hundreds of billions of galaxies, each with stars, each with planets, each with chances. You drift through this cosmic mathematics, not as a scientist, but as a traveler in thought. The universe, once thought to be mostly empty, now feels full, not just of matter, but of mystery. You begin to see the night sky differently. Each pinpoint of light is no longer just a star. It is a system, a family of worlds. And you realize, the question isn't just, how many Earths are out there? It's also, how many ways can life begin? How many forms can breath take? How many chances does the universe allow? You recall how life on Earth began. Not in sunlight, but in darkness. In deep, warm places beneath the sea. From chemistry came biology. From time came thought, if it could happen here, might it not happen elsewhere? The numbers begin to feel less abstract, more like possibility, made real. You picture a world just a little larger than Earth, its gravity stronger, its days longer, a place where forests grow slower but deeper, where intelligence evolved, not in apes, but in birds, or in something we could never imagine, or a smaller planet, where everything is quick, the winds, the lives, the civilizations. Each Earth-like world might carry a different rhythm, different laws, but life, the desire to persist, to grow, to feel, that might echo through them all. Still, the numbers are only the beginning. Even if a planet is Earth-like, it must endure. It must escape constant bombardment. It must survive solar flares. It must hold onto its air, its water, its warmth. Even here, on Earth, life almost didn't make it. Mass extinctions, ice ages, collisions. And yet, life held on, adapted, evolved. So we wonder, if Earth did it once, could it be done again? Not once, not twice, but millions of times. Across the stars, you feel the weight of hopeful possibility, and the soft humility that we still know so little. Every telescope we send, every satellite we launch, is a question written in glass and code. We are asking the stars to answer us, not with certainty, but with clues. Already, the next generation of telescopes is preparing. They will search not just for planets, but for atmospheres, for biosignatures, for the quiet signs of a breathing world. And maybe one day, they will find a signal, not a message, just a trace of methane and oxygen together, or something stranger, yet unmistakably alive. You imagine that moment, the world listening, a quiet intake of breath from an entire species, realizing it is not alone, not in hope, but in fact. You float in this thought, as gently as a feather on air. The universe does not promise anything, but it offers everything. And you, a single person under a single sky, carry that question within you. How many Earths? Maybe more than we dared to dream. Maybe fewer than we hope. But the search itself is part of the answer. Because the more we look, the more we learn, not just about space, but about ourselves. We are creatures who wonder, who map the stars, not for conquest, but for connection. You are part of that. This night, this thought, this question. Last lines, transition. But even if we find other Earths, can we ever reach them? How do we travel across such impossible distance? To answer that, you must go faster than a spaceship. You must travel with light itself. Next, riding the beam how light could carry us farther. The stars are not nearby. You've always known this. But now, as your mind floats deeper into the dark, you begin to feel the distance. Not as a number, but as a silence. The nearest star to Earth, besides the Sun, is Proxima Centauri. It is just over 4 light-years away. To your dreaming mind, that doesn't sound far. But in the language of rockets and fuel, it is almost unreachable. Even our fastest spacecraft would take tens of thousands of years to arrive there. You imagine that time. Civilizations would rise and fall. Forests would turn to dust. And still, the ship would not have arrived. So if we are to go farther, to other Earths, to distant suns, we must find a new way. And tonight, you discover that new way. Not by building a bigger engine, but by harnessing something that has no engine at all. Light. You've seen how light carries messages. From stars to telescopes. From planets to spectra. But what if light could carry us? You drift into this thought as you float beside a sail. Not one of canvas or rope, but a sail made of ultra-thin material, spread like wings, wide and delicate. This is a light sail, and it catches not wind, but photons, particles of light that strike with no mass, but with momentum, and that momentum pushes, gently, silently, but over time, it adds up. The idea seems simple, but in its simplicity lies a new path. No fuel tanks, no explosions, just the sun's light, or an artificial beam from lasers, pushing the sail, like breath against a feather. You begin to imagine a fleet of light sails, small and flat, launched not from rockets, but from hope. Each one no bigger than a book, each carrying a chip, a camera, a whisper of intelligence. They ride beams of focused light, accelerating faster than any rocket ever has. If pushed hard enough, they could reach a fraction of the speed of light. And that means reaching Proxima Centauri, not in millennia, but in decades. You float alongside one now. It shimmers, a ghostly wing in the dark. It has no crew, but it carries questions. It carries you. It was not built for comfort, but for contact. To skim past alien planets, snap images, sense chemicals, and send back its findings. Across the void, the journey will take 20 years. The message may take 4 more to return. But it's possible. Already, scientists are working on this. The project is called Breakthrough Starshot. It is real. It is early. But it is serious. You marvel at the idea of sending something small to something far, and suddenly, distance feels different. You understand that light is not just something that shows. It moves. It touches. It carries. You look down, inward, back toward Earth. Sunlight takes just over 8 minutes to reach our planet. A blink compared to the long journeys ahead. But even that journey is a clue, because light, though weightless, is tireless. It crosses emptiness without slowing, without asking for rest. So if we can ride it, not like a passenger, but like a surfer on a wave, we might go farther than ever before. You imagine new technologies, giant lasers on Earth, firing beams into the sky. They lock onto a light sail, push it gently, then more forcefully, until the sail leaves the solar system. Faster than any object in human history. The physics works. The challenges are many. Controlling the beam, protecting the sail, communicating across stars. But none of it is magic. None of it is impossible. And so, the dream begins to shift. From wishful thinking to real design. You feel yourself pulled forward by this idea. Because if we can send sails, perhaps we can one day send more. Larger sails, smarter systems, artificial minds that explore before we ever set foot. And maybe, someday, we'll go too. Not in metal ships, full of fire, but in light-borne crafts, slim and smooth, gliding at near light speed, toward blue dots far away. The stars, so long silent, begin to feel closer. Still distant, but no longer untouchable. And in this gentle realization, you breathe a little deeper. Because even now, you ride light every day. The signals that carry your thoughts, your voice, your vision, they ride light. Fiber optics, Wi-Fi, satellites. We are already sending ourselves through photons. Space is vast, but light is faster. And you, lying quietly now, wrapped in thought, have begun to see yourself, not as stuck, but as riding. You are riding the beam, not just through science, but through imagination. A slow, steady current that carries questions farther than fear. Because this is how great journeys begin. Not with certainty, but with curiosity. You drift once more beside the shimmering sail. It turns slightly, adjusting itself with the gentlest twist. No noise, no flame, just the silent push of light. On a willing wing, it vanishes into the dark. Not gone, but going. You follow it in thought, carried not by speed, but by the strength of possibility. Last lines, transition. But even if we arrive, what would we see? Would the planet be empty? Or would it already sing with the presence of something we've never met? Next, signs of life listening to the silence. Space is quiet, but it is not still. It hums. It ripples. It breathes in a language of waves. You drift now, not just through distance, but through the soft soundlessness between stars. And you are listening, not with ears, but with awareness. Not for noise, but for pattern. The kind of rhythm that does not happen by chance. This is the search for life. Not by looking, but by listening. Because long before we step foot on another world, we might hear it. Somewhere out there, a planet may be spinning, its skies thick with clouds, its land echoing with the chirp of something that thinks, that builds, that sends. Or maybe they don't send. Maybe they just live. And the signals we seek slip out of their world by accident, as ours once did. You float in this possibility, wrapped in the hush of space, imagining antennas pointed toward the sky. Back on Earth, in deserts, mountain tops, and far from cities, telescopes scan the heavens. They listen to the radio sky. Not music, but frequencies. This is the work of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Scientists tune into silence, hoping for a whisper that doesn't belong to stars or galaxies. Because natural things make noise too. Quasars, pulsars, magnetic storms, all of them sing. But life sings differently. It may pulse in regular intervals. It may repeat. It may narrow its frequency, as if focused, like a beam across the dark. You imagine hearing it now. A faint click, a rhythmic flash, a tone too perfect to be random. And maybe, somewhere out there, they hear us too. For over a century, Earth has been leaking radio waves, television signals, radar, communications. They stretch outward, a growing bubble, of accidental announcement. We did not mean to speak, but we already have. And if someone is listening, they might hear the trace of our existence. You wonder, what would they think of us? Would our signals seem like patterns or noise? Would they hear war or music, chaos or curiosity? Maybe they listen as we do, not with expectation, but with openness. Because space offers no guarantees. We may search for lifetimes and hear nothing, but silence itself can be a message, not absence, just waiting. You float through this stillness and find it strangely comforting, because even silence can hold meaning. It makes us listen more carefully. It sharpens the questions we did not know we were asking. And so, we try other ways to listen. We study atmospheres. Remember the light passing through air? If it carries oxygen, methane, ozone, in just the right mix, we suspect life. Not intelligent life. Not machines or voices. But life all the same. Algae, plants, microbes. A planet breathing quietly in photosynthesis and decay. This too is a signal, written not in words, but in molecules. It's called a biosignature, and it is one of the most hopeful things we can ever detect. Because even if no one's speaking, they might still be living. You drift beside one of these imagined planets. Its surface is hidden beneath clouds. Its data comes only as a flicker on a telescope's screen. But the light it reflects whispers something curious. Maybe there's methane. Maybe it fluctuates with seasons. Maybe it dances like life does on Earth. You lean in, not to see, but to understand. What would life be like there? Would it float? Would it crawl? Or root itself deep into alien soil? Would it make sound? Would it see? We don't know. And that, too, is part of the wonder. Because life may not look anything like Earth. It might be based on different chemistry. It might use silicon instead of carbon. It might live in sulfur or methane lakes. So when we listen, we must listen beyond expectation, beyond human. We must tune ourselves to the unknown. And still, the silence remains. Does that mean we are alone? Or are we just early? You remember, the universe is old, billions of years old. Civilizations may have risen and vanished long before we were born. Or they may not yet exist. We may be among the first to ask these questions. But if they are out there, If anyone has ever sent a message, would they still be sending? Or did they send once, long ago, trusting that someone, someday, might hear? This thought stirs something deep, because a signal does not need an immediate answer to have meaning. Sometimes, the act of sending is enough. You imagine sending your own signal now, a quiet message, drifting through stars. You do not expect a reply. You send it, because wonder deserves to be shared. Because silence does not mean no one is listening. And so we keep listening. With radio dishes, with infrared telescopes, with algorithms searching through oceans of data for a single spark. And one day, perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps not in your lifetime, but one day, there may be a sound, a pulse, a pattern, a message. It may say nothing more than, "We are here." But that will be enough, because it will change everything. You close your eyes now, floating not in silence, but in attention. The stars do not speak loudly, but maybe they whisper. And tonight, you have learned how to listen. Last lines, transition. But if someone is out there, where are they? Why haven't we heard them yet? To answer that, you must travel into a cosmic mystery, older than our questions. Next, the great silence. Where is everyone? You've traveled so far in thought, across stars, through time, beyond orbits and atmospheres, riding light itself, searching for signs. You've listened closely. You've watched the sky. You've imagined worlds where life might bloom. And yet, the silence remains. So now, a question arrives. Not loud, but persistent. It floats in the quiet, like a slow heartbeat. If life is common, where is everyone? This is the Fermi Paradox. A contradiction wrapped in curiosity. A galaxy filled with stars. A sky filled with planets. And all the right conditions. Yet no signal. No visit. No trace. You drift inside this mystery now. Not to solve it, but to feel it. Maybe life is everywhere, but rare in time. Perhaps civilizations rise, then vanish. Like sparks in a storm. They build, they wonder, they explore. Then they fall silent. War, plague, climate, chance. And by the time another life form emerges, the signal has faded. The world has cooled. The memory lost. You pause in that thought, because you know how fragile life can be. Even here, on Earth, survival has never been certain. Maybe the universe is not quiet. Maybe it is full of ghost signals, long expired, echoing through cold space, long after their senders disappeared. Or maybe life is common, but intelligence is not. Perhaps most living things never look to the stars. They stay close to the ground, content to survive, to breathe, to bloom. They do not build machines. They do not launch probes. They do not leave a trace beyond the soil that held them. You imagine a planet covered in moss, insects with dreams, oceans filled with luminous fish, each flickering like stars beneath the surface. Life everywhere, but not listening, not sending, just being. And then another possibility emerges. Perhaps they are listening, but choosing silence. Maybe advanced civilizations become quiet on purpose. They learn that shouting into the void comes with risk. They observe. They watch. They protect themselves from noise. This idea is called the dark forest hypothesis. The notion that the cosmos is like a forest at night, where every civilization hides in the shadows, fearing to reveal itself. You let that sink in, because it changes everything. Maybe no one is talking, not because they aren't there, but because they are afraid. Or perhaps, most quietly of all, maybe we are early. The stars have existed for billions of years. But intelligent life? It may be just beginning. You look back across human history. Only a few decades ago, we began sending signals. Only recently did we launch probes into interstellar space. We are young, not just as a species, but as explorers. So maybe the others haven't arrived yet. Or maybe we are the first. You rest in that possibility, not as pride, but as responsibility. Because if we are the first to look up and ask, then our voice matters all the more. We may be the opening line of a great cosmic conversation. Not the only ones who will ever speak, but the first. And so, the silence becomes sacred. It invites humility. It asks for patience. It reminds you that space is vast, and time, vaster still. The universe doesn't rush, and neither should we. We must build slowly, send carefully, listen deeply. We must survive long enough to hear the answers that might still be on their way. Perhaps right now, on a distant planet, a telescope is being aimed at a pale blue dot called Earth. Perhaps someone is tuning their instruments, scanning the sky, wondering if they are alone. Perhaps this moment is being shared, not by one mind, but by many, all separated by light years, yet joined by the same quiet question. You smile, because in some way, you are not alone after all. To wonder is to connect, and wonder is something life does best. So you breathe in deeply, you lie still, and you feel yourself becoming part of the story. A gentle signal, sent not with machines, but with thought. You are here, alive, curious, listening. And that is how it begins. The silence may last for a long time still, but even silence has a shape, a meaning, and within it, something beautiful is unfolding. Not just the search for others, but the discovery of ourselves. Because to ask, where is everyone, is also to ask, who are we? And the answer is just beginning to form. Last lines, closure. And so you rest, carried by the starlight, held in the hush between galaxies. You do not need all the answers tonight. You only need the quiet and the curiosity to keep looking up. Sleep gently now, the stars are still listening.
you